Good afternoon, everybody. Christine Barconi live in the NBC4 streaming studio. We are 1 week until Election Day, so of course we wanted to talk to the man in charge. Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose joins us right now from his office, looks like in downtown Columbus, overlooking the beautiful State House there. Thanks for joining us, Secretary LaRose.
Christine, it's exciting to see the countdown clock ticking down, and we know that Election Day is exactly a week away today.
And how are things going?
Really, we're excited about all the progress that we've made. As you know, back in April, we rolled up our sleeves and figured out how do we run a presidential election in the midst of a pandemic. There were really three key things that we focused on. It was poll worker recruitment. How do we make sure that we have a whole new generation of poll workers ready to go to run our voting locations? That's been a humongous success. We've had over 140,000 people sign up. And as we speak, the boards of elections have trained more than 53,000 Ohioans that are going to be ready to go to open those polling locations. So that's really awesome. We also knew that we had to create the right health scenario, and that means putting the right procedures in place. We launched a 61-point checklist that was devised with the Centers for Disease Control as well as the Ohio Department of Health. All the boards of elections are required to follow that to create that safe and healthy environment. We've been able to field massive quantities of personal protective equipment. So the bottom line is this: if you feel comfortable and safe going to your grocery store, you should feel safe and comfortable coming to your polling location. So we're in a good place as it relates to the health scenario. Really, the other thing that we wanted to focus on, Christine, was making sure that we could maximize the use of early voting and absentee voting. We wanted to make sure that Ohioans took advantage of those convenient options.
And they certainly have.
Oh my goodness, it's blown away anything we've previously seen. Triple the numbers for early voting, triple the numbers of anything we've seen in the past, and double the numbers for absentee voting. We're on track to see something happen that has never happened in the state before. Before the polls open at 6:30 a.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd, there's a possibility that more than half the votes could have already been cast. And it's exciting to see Ohioans taking advantage of this. And today is one of those deadlines. The law says you can wait longer, but we're telling people that effectively today is the last day to request your absentee ballot. And we're reminding people that if you want to vote from the comfort of home by mail, the easiest way to do that is go to voteohio.gov, print off the form, or you can follow the instructions we have right there on the website to even make your own form just with a plain piece of paper if you don't have a printer. And so again, if you want to request that absentee ballot and vote from the comfort of home, you still have time, but effectively today's really the last day to get that done.
That's one of the reasons we also wanted to talk to you today, because we know that you were pushing many, many months ago to make sure that, we get that information out there, that people request those, 1 week out. We also have those instructions on our website ourselves, NBC4i.com. I want to talk to you about, so you're talking effectively, possibly half the people in the state may have already voted or will have voted by November 3rd. When we get those first round of numbers, will all previous votes be in that, or will the boards of elections still be catching up at that point and maybe putting out more numbers just because they have seen so many?
Sure. So this is something important for folks to understand. The way election night reporting works is that on Tuesday night, or it may go into the wee hours of Wednesday morning, we're going to report everything we have so far. And that means when that unofficial result comes out, and again, I emphasize unofficial, when that unofficial result comes out late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, it's going to include every absentee ballot that's arrived at the Board of Elections so far. It's going to include every early vote ballot that has been cast, and of course, all of the in-person election day votes. But of course, that's not the final story. People have asked, are we going to know the final result on election night? The answer is, of course not, because we never have the final result on election night. And here's why. In Ohio, as long as you postmark your ballot by Monday, November 2nd, it's got 10 days to arrive at the Board of Elections. So imagine one of our overseas Ohioans, maybe one of my former military teammates voting from overseas, or just an Ohioan that maybe procrastinates and waits until the last minute. And we hope nobody does that, but we know some will. Those ballots are legally cast ballots. They deserve to be counted, and they have up until the 13th of November. So here's what matters. We're highlighting that number of outstanding absentee ballots right there on our election reporting website on election night. So here's what you'll be able to know. You'll be able to see how many votes different candidates got, not just for the presidential race, but all the way down to those crucial races like Ohio Supreme Court and state legislative races and congressional races and judge races. All of those really matter. And so you'll be able to see how many votes each candidate got, but you're also going to be able to see the number of outstanding absentee ballots. And we know that a lot of those will come back in. And why that's important is for people to be fully informed. You may not have conclusive results on election night. That's not the sign that something has gone wrong. That's us making sure that what you hear us say as elections officials, that every single vote matters. This is the manifestation of that. Every vote matters, and we need to count every vote before we can call an outcome in Ohio. And again, you'll have the information that you need by just looking at our election night reporting page, because you'll know how many outstanding absentee ballots there still are.
So we did have a pretty big error with absentee ballots here in Franklin County. It seems like that is resolved. How confident are you that everything is secure in Franklin County and that absentee voting by mail is safe and secure in Ohio?
Yeah, no question. Franklin County made a big mistake, and they've owned up to that. They understand the mistake that they made. They understand how not to make that mistake again in the future. I hope that voters understand what happened here was basically just a collating error. The wrong ballots got put in the wrong envelopes. It's unacceptable. It can't happen. There are safeguards in place to prevent it from happening, but unfortunately, if those safeguards aren't used, then they can't be effective. And so Franklin County Board of Elections has learned from this. They sent out a replacement ballot to everybody that got the wrong ballot. Of course, they keep meticulous track of every single voter, and so nobody can vote twice. You can only vote once, and that's very clear. And they sent out a postcard, and I know that they utilize social media and text messages and emails to try to communicate with folks. So those voters that got the wrong ballot due to this error by the Franklin County Board of Elections received a replacement ballot. And the good news too is this, Christine, in Ohio, we don't have to wait for election day. We've got a whole election month. Most states aren't like that. And because this error occurred in early October, the Franklin County Board of Elections had time to correct it. And thank God that they did, because again, we know that every single vote matters. And I know that the Franklin County Board of Elections feels that way as well. And by the way, they've seen terrific traffic, just awesome traffic at their early voting center down there on Morse Road also.
So you're confident that everything is okay in Franklin County?
Absolutely. No question.
Do you get frustrated having to say that over and over again? Because we keep having to ask you, because there are certain people, including the president, who aren't too sure about mail-in voting, absentee voting. Do you get frustrated having to keep reiterating this to us?
From time to time, but this is the job. I mean, I want to make sure that Ohioans are empowered with accurate information. The fact is that voter fraud is exceedingly rare. Of course, can it happen? Yes, but we take it very seriously. We prosecute for it. We refer people for prosecution, but it amounts to a tiny fraction of a percent, 0.000 something. And again, there's no such thing as any acceptable level, but it's a tiny number. And when it happens, we do address that very seriously. Also, human errors are made by boards of elections. Again, they work really hard. They're very dedicated teams. Everything is overseen in a bipartisan way. And a lot of people don't realize this. Again, in DC, it feels like Republicans and Democrats can't agree that today's Tuesday, right? But at your county board of elections, literally everything they do is done with bipartisan oversight. And so all of these, all of these myths and urban legends out there about widespread voter fraud, or about, people making it harder to vote, all of it is nonsense. People know the truth in Ohio. Ohioans know that it's easy to vote in the Buckeye State, and Ohioans know that it's an accurate and honest process. And so, yes, it's frustrating, whether it comes from the left or whether it comes from the right, for people to say things that aren't true, that confuse voters. And my job, and I'm proud to do this job, is to make sure that Ohioans know the truth. And the bottom line is this: get your information from a credentialed journalist. Get your information from the trusted source, like the Ohio Secretary of State website, voteohio.gov. Get the answers from our hotline, 877-SOS-OHIO. There's a lot of good ways for Ohioans to be well informed. Don't listen to all the noise out there. And also remember this: it's easy to vote in Ohio. Anybody that says otherwise is just not paying attention. You can vote today, tomorrow, the next day. You can vote this weekend. There are very few states in the nation that allow people to vote on a Sunday. Ohio is one of them. So Ohio, no excuse. Get out there and make sure your voice is heard. Be a voter.
Speaking of disinformation, I want to ask you something, and I actually don't know the answer to this. In Ohio, can you change your vote if you've casted a ballot already? If you see something at a debate, or you see some new information about a candidate and you say, I don't want to vote for them anymore, or I do want to vote for them, can you change your vote if you voted early?
That's not allowed in Ohio. I know some other states allow that. And candidly, I'm glad that in Ohio, once you've cast your vote, that it's final, because that kind of thing could be a real logistical and administrative nightmare for our boards of elections that already have their hands full. And so the bottom line is this: make your decision, do your research, but once you've cast your ballot in Ohio, then your voice has been heard, and there's no do-overs, no mulligans.
So about a week ago, or excuse me, about a month ago or a couple months ago, you really put out a call, really imploring young people, especially, to get out there and sign up to be a poll worker. What's the status of that in the state? Are we all covered? Did you see those young people signing up? How's that going?
Huge response to that. We had over 140,000 Ohioans that signed up on our website and through partners like Power the Polls and Poll Hero, some of these other groups that were out there encouraging poll worker recruitment. We had, like I said, over 140,000 signed up. Now, some boards of elections are still getting caught up. I've been really leaning on them pretty hard. You can ask any of them to make sure they get that number that we've set as the real goal for them, and that is 150%. So again, if they normally rely on 1,000 poll workers just in a normal year, of course, this is not a normal year. I've told them they really need to have 1,500. They need to be at 150%. And that means that we have that reserve force, that ready to go force that we can call in the backups, the substitutes for Tuesday morning in case somebody doesn't show up for work. Now, again, we've also, because I'm a big believer in transparency, we created a poll worker tracker that I think is the first in the nation, and other states are now starting to emulate this, where you can go to our website. In fact, it's pollworkertracker.ohiosos.gov, pollworkertracker.ohiosos.gov. You can type in your county, and you can see how many Republicans they need, how many Democrats they need. You can see how many they have from each party, and you can see what they're still lacking, because there are a few counties that are still not caught up on training. I know some county boards of elections are still offering training this weekend or throughout the evenings this week. And so if you are one of those folks that signed up to be a poll worker, and for whatever reason you haven't heard from your county board of elections yet, and this is a little bit of a frustration for me, because I've been encouraging the boards to call all their volunteers or email all their volunteers, contact everybody who's signed up. And candidly, they've been a little overwhelmed because there've been so many people, and that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have. They've had so many people volunteer that they've been trying to work through that. But if you haven't heard back yet, call your board of elections. You can get the phone number for them at our website, voteohio.gov. And again, just click on the Find My Board of Elections link, and you can give them a call, and hopefully they'll get you scheduled for training one night this week or maybe even this weekend.
Something interesting that we've been seeing, especially if we have these lines that are kind of I don't want to say long lines or wrapped around, because I don't want to discourage people from early voting. These lines do move quickly. I've been in one myself. People are taking advantage of them, and we've seen candidates actually be in these lines and kind of give their last elevator pitch. And it has, it's a different way of door knocking this year. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, we work really hard to avoid lines, but there are going to be lines. And actually, it's a sign of enthusiasm. Remember that Ohio has 216 hours of early voting. We have weekends, we have evenings. And so there's a lot of time for people to get involved and go and cast their early vote. But if you get to the Board of Elections and there is a line, don't be discouraged, because when people are standing 6 feet apart, it looks a lot bigger than it actually is. Now, we actually brought in the experts on this to consult our boards of elections as part of our Ready for November task force meetings. We were doing these Zoom meetings every week that were broadcast on the Ohio channel. And we brought in the folks from Cedar Point Amusement Park. Talk about line management. They know how to manage a line.
That's an expert.
Right? And what they consulted us on was a couple of things about line management, keeping people sort of engaged and entertained, but also informed. What they told us is that normally people stand about 18 inches in a line. Normally people are like 1.5 feet apart. Now, nobody's going to stand that close right now unless you're with your family or a loved one. And so everybody's standing 6 feet apart. And so the lines look longer than they actually are. One of the things that the boards of elections are doing is they're putting signs out, and they're sending staff members out to tell people, hey, it's only a 30-minute wait from this point, or hey, it's only a 20-minute wait. It's kind of like those signs we've all seen that say you'll be on the ride in 20 minutes. It's a reassuring thing. But as far as candidates out there making their pitch, here's what the law says in Ohio. Any kind of election activity, any kind of campaigning activity has to happen away from that polling location, at least 100 feet. And then if the line extends beyond that, then they have to keep at least 10 feet away so that they're not getting in the way of or obstructing voters. And so as long as a candidate is out there making their pitch and abiding by the law of the state of Ohio and not impeding or staying that minimum distance away from the voters, then that's a fine thing. And I know that both parties engage in passing out slate cards and passing literature and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen both. I voted at Ohio's largest county early, Franklin County, and I hate to even call it a line because we weren't standing. We were constantly moving, and I was there for about an hour on one of those very busy days.
I know that there's some groups out there with really good intentions that wanted to like bring food to people in lines and that kind of thing. And they actually got frustrated by finding that when they would come and ask somebody if they wanted food and they'd go to get them the food
They're
and then they'd
gone.
back and they're already through. And so the lines are moving quickly. Again, nobody wants to wait in a line. There's a lot of good options. And actually, the best way to avoid the line is to vote from the comfort of home. That's
Yeah.
what Lauren and I did. That's an easy way to do it as well.
What was that tracking system like? I saw your tweets about that, and you were getting your text updates and stuff like that. Tell me what that's like.
So Franklin County has a really good one. Every county has a tracking system, so
Yeah.
you can track your ballot just like you track a package that you order online. So I'll give you an example. Lauren and I live here in the Columbus area. We requested our absentee ballot once we got the envelope, the one that looks like this from the Ohio Secretary of State's office that every registered voter in the state got. And then once we got that, we sent it right back. And then I signed up for tracking. And so then I got a text message from the Franklin County Board of Elections on October 6th. And they said, hey, we're sending you your ballot. And then Lauren and I sat down at our kitchen table in Upper Arlington. We filled out our ballot and we signed all the stuff we needed to sign. And we put the appropriate postage on it. We dropped it in the mailbox in front of our house. And then we got a text message a few days later that said, we've received your ballot and your vote is going to be counted. And so that's a really reassuring thing for people that like that in-person experience because they say, I want to put it in the ballot box myself, or I want to put it in the scanner myself. This is kind of the digital equivalent of that. You can rest assured once you've been notified by your Board of Elections that your voice is going to be heard. Now, if you live in a county that doesn't offer those text messages, because they don't all do that yet, you can still go online at voteohio.gov and just look it up. And we're encouraging Ohioans to do that. Voteohio.gov/track is the specific site, but you can find it from the homepage there as well. And you can see where your ballot is in the process. And then once you see that the Board of Elections has received it and accepted it, you can rest assured that your voice will be heard and your ballot will be counted.
All right, Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose, one last question for you. What's your last advice in these 7 more days to vote here? What is your message to Ohioans?
So it's a couple of things. First of all, it's just make your plan. There's no good excuse. It's easy to vote in Ohio. There's no excuse for sitting out this election. There's too much at stake. The future of our state and our nation and all of these important questions, you've got to make your voice heard. And it's easier in Ohio than almost any other state. It's easier in Ohio than it's ever been in our history to make your voice heard. You've got early voting, you've got absentee voting, and you've got in-person election day voting. Pick which one works for you and make your voice heard. But here are 2 reminders. If you have requested an absentee ballot and it's sitting on your kitchen table, don't delay. Fill it out, put your postage on it, and mail it in. We're seeing that there are still some Ohioans that got a ballot and haven't returned it yet. Mail it in today. Today's a great day to do that. Tomorrow's a great day to do it. You have all the way until November 2nd, but certainly don't wait that long. Mail in your absentee ballot today. Also, talk about sort of up to the deadline here nearly. Now is the time to request your absentee ballot if you haven't already done so. Again, the law says you can wait all the way till Saturday, but that's a bad idea because if you do, chances are your ballot will arrive at your home after the election when it's too late. And so really effectively, today is the day to request your absentee ballot if you haven't done so already. The easiest thing to do is to return the absentee ballot request that I mailed you, or you can go to voteohio.gov, print a form, or if you don't have a printer, look for the link that says make your own. You can make your own absentee ballot request form just with a plain piece of notebook paper. As long as you follow the instructions and send it in, the Board of Elections will send you a ballot. Bottom line is this: when the polls close at 7:30 on election night, whether your favorite candidate wins or loses, you'll know it was an honest contest in Ohio where everybody had an opportunity to vote and where every legally cast vote was counted. And that's all. That's what we want. Abraham Lincoln said the elections belong to the people. That's become my theme the last couple of days. The elections belong to the people. I'm just the caretaker of it. Your county board of elections is the caretaker of it. It's your responsibility to vote.
All right, Secretary LaRose, always really nice talking to you, always super informative. Everything he said we will have up on our website, NBC4i.com. We really appreciate you being with us this evening or this afternoon, and we will see you all later. Bye.
Thanks, Christine.